what were your roots?
I mean, I grew up in Lahore actually, and as a matter of fact, since I grew up, I was sort of deeply linked with Beacon House. Our regional director in the Middle East, he actually studied in that house, and he often tells me कि मैंने आपके घर के हर कमरे में पढ़ा हुआ है. I mean वो होता है. I would say not only the better parts, some of the I mean we're all human beings, so we all have strengths and weaknesses, and that includes my parents. So I've also inherited some of the rough edges, which I would rather not get into right now because this is going to air. To just pick out one thing from each. From my father, it would be honesty, and from my mother, it would be hard work and consistency.
So it means you were pretty Gen Z in your teenage as well.
I was pretty Gen Z in my teenage. I'd say I'm pretty Gen Z now even.
Yes,
I'm
that's
pretty good to them. To ideate and come up with new ideas. So what tests don't do so well is test how well you can come up with a completely novel idea. They test very well what you already know from the body of knowledge that exists.
Coming to your student life, I want to ask, like, if there was a moment that you could relive in your student life, what would it be? That one specific moment that you feel like, no, I want to go and relive it back then. This means that we are coming to the real world, because as university students, getting into the practical life is something that we are so scared of at the point.
Kids are less intelligent than their parents, or the first generation is less intelligent. Maybe they're just the first generation where the world has changed so much so quickly that their entire paradigm is unfamiliar to previous generations. There's a lot of research now coming out which I find to be a bit of a relief, which is suggesting that AI isn't this like super intelligence that we thought it was. It's basically, in a way, it's like a highly sophisticated search engine.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Assalamualaikum. Pleasure to be here.
First of all, I want to ask, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's fantastic to be here with you guys. It's the first time I've done a talk on a beanbag. So,
I hope you're comfortable in it.
I'm super comfortable.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I am Nassir.
I'm BIC Hajra.
I'm Hadi.
And we are Beaconites.
Awesome.
So first of all,
All three of you are Beaconites, meaning
Yes.
before Beacon House International College as well?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
nice. Amazing.
So, sir, before we start, we want to thank you for sharing your time with us.
It's my pleasure.
We are truly honored to have you here. Not only honored, but we are also very excited to know you on a deeper scale.
It's
sir-
my pleasure to share my life with you.
That's great.
Yeah.
And on the basis of knowing you on the deeper scale, we would be asking you some fun questions. It's more like a chit-chat session with you. And then we would be ending it with the rapid fire round.
Sure. Sounds good.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take a trip down memory lane. We're going to start from your bedroom to how you grew up as a child. Shall we?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, coming to the first question,
Yeah.
sir, where did you grow up? What were your roots?
I mean, I grew up in Lahore actually, and as a matter of fact, since I grew up, I was sort of deeply linked with Beacon House because the house in which I grew up, which is still our family house, was actually the first location for a Beacon House school. It was a large house that my father had inherited on the main boulevard. And if you speak to a lot of Beaconites who are actually my age, they studied there. So, our regional director in the Middle East, he actually studied in that house, and he often tells me कि मैंने आपके घर के हर कमरे में पढ़ा हुआ है. And so yeah, we used to live in the top portion of that house, and the school used to be underneath. So I used to see kids playing, and I used to sometimes go and sort of just participate in some of the stuff that was going on there. Later on, the school moved out, and we moved down, and then the Beacon House head office was there. So in the top portion of the house, and at that time we moved to the ground floor. So for many years growing up, I was around Beacon House in some way, shape or form, very closely and personally. So yeah, and it was great growing up in Lahore. I've spent pretty much my entire life in Pakistan actually. And most of it in Lahore. I moved to Islamabad about 13 years ago. Usse pehle it was in fact in the same house in Lahore till the age of about 34. So it was a very, I think, stable life. I know a lot of people move around a lot. But mera, काफ़ी stable था. I had a set group of friends. I had a familiar environment. So, I'm happy about, the kind of stability and security I got growing up because of that.
We completely understand, and that's lovely to know that the concept of Beacon House is your home, comes from your very own home.
Yeah.
That's great. So I would ask you the most common question I think everyone would ask you, that who influenced you the most during your early years? Who was your ideal?
Yeah. I would have to say my parents, both of them, in different ways probably. My mother was obviously, played multiple roles, and she has played multiple roles in my life from the beginning. But, to start with, obviously, just as a mother, a very loving and comforting and supportive person. And then later as I grew up, her sort of work ethic and no nonsense sort of attitude to work is something that's stayed with me. She doesn't cut corners. She works with a lot of discipline and consistency. She's well organized. And, those are things that I have really tried to embed in myself and also teach my kids. On my father's side, he's always been someone that has had a lot of empathy for other human beings. I think it's something that really defines him as a person more than anything. His love and care for other people, and his honesty and integrity actually are something definitely that I've observed my entire life, and that's something that I try to emulate. Honestly, he's a hard act to follow because he's very, very, he's unique in many ways. And I would say, being a politician, there are very few people, in our political spectrum that, are now idealistic and as idealistic and as empathetic as he used to be. So I've taken some of those qualities from him, not all of them, and I think he would say certainly not to the extent that he would always like, but I've really been inspired by those aspects of his personality. So, different inspirations from both parents.
So basically, you
wonderful.
incorporated both parents, a bit part of their personality.
I mean, wo hota hai. I would say not only the better parts, some of the, I mean, we're all human beings, so we all have strengths and weaknesses, and that includes my parents. So I've also inherited some of the rough edges, which I would rather not get into right now because this is going to air. But you get a mixed bag. But I would say I benefited certainly more than any negative I may have, picked up along the way. Yeah.
That's yeah. So, seeing that your parents are your idols, what's one lesson that you learned from them that has stuck with you till date?
Well, I mean, I think I spoke about that. I think if I was to, just pick out one thing from each, from my father, it would be honesty, and from my mother, it would be hard work and consistency.
Sure, perfect,
That's
great.
wonderful.
That's
That's
wonderful.
wonderful. Very good
Yeah.
traits you have
I
picked
mean, I know
up.
it sounds a little bit cliched, but they actually have lived those qualities in the truest sense of the word, both of them.
But these qualities, I think,
Are
are
very
must.
important.
They are. They are. I don't think you can really get very far in life, without them. Hard work and consistency is incredibly important. You'd be amazed how much can be achieved if you just, stick to a course of action, and and keep going, and don't be, dejected or turned off by early defeat. If you keep going and working, it can be an incredible route to success. And honesty and integrity, I think, unless you have, the world won't trust you, you won't be respected. At the end of the day, fundamentally, I think the most important reason, at least that I work or that any of us work, is to gain respect and to contribute to community, but to be respected by our fellow man. And honesty and integrity के बगैर तो वो नहीं हो सकता.
That's true.
That's true.
That's
That's
great.
true. So, sir, from childhood dreams to classroom realities, it's
Yeah.
time we shift the phase
Yeah.
from the early little Mr. Nasir
Yeah,
Kasuri
yeah.
to a bit younger version.
A student version,
A
basically.
student
for yourself.
version, maybe.
As a teenager, I was a little bit, I have to be honest, a little bit mischievous. I wasn't exactly the easiest person in the world. I've always been a bit of a rebel, to be honest. I still am. And that doesn't always make me the easiest person to deal with, because in my teenage years and also now, I tend to be quite individually minded. My thoughts don't always conform with my friends, my parents, or society as a whole. So I'm a little bit rebellious, and I think I was a bit rebellious as a teenager, and I think in some ways I still am. That's the honest truth. It's a part of my personality. I don't easily conform to groupthink, and sometimes I think I go a little far in that, as in कुछ थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा भी हो जाता है. That sometimes groupthink is also okay, but I would have to be honest. So that when I was a teenager, sometimes translated into slightly adventurous behavior as well. So I wouldn't say I was, I had some interesting and fun times in high school.
That's
And I think my parents had an interesting time dealing with me at times also, but that is God's honest truth. And I think with time, as I've grown older, obviously one matures, one understands the world better, and one finds a much better balance. I think it's important to be able to think outside of the box and be independent minded, but one doesn't want to turn that into some sort of a fetish and just do it for the sake of it, right? It's one has to find the right balance, and I think as I've grown older, I better
Not
found
at
that
all, sir.
balance. Acha?
Yes, not at all, not at all.
अच्छा चलिए ठीक है, well, hopefully a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
So it means you were pretty Gen Z in your teenage as well.
I was pretty Gen Z in my teenage. I'd say I'm pretty Gen Z now even.
Yes,
I'm
that's
pretty,
true.
That's true.
But you know, kind of introduced it in your own teenage as well, because that's what we are known for. We are the rebel
Like
kids.
you were far ahead of your generation, basically.
Yeah, you guys are the rebels apparently, and so, yeah, no, I mean, that resonates with me. You know, लोग जब अक्सर कहते हैं कि यार, you know, आजकल के बच्चे तो पता नहीं ये सोचते हैं वो सोचते हैं, हमारे तो ज़माने में we used to be like yes sir जब हमारे parents कुछ कहते थे, and I'm like यार I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe you guys, not necessarily me. So yeah, I think in that way, yeah, that's a good observation. I was a little bit Gen Z in my time.
Oh, that's great.
That's great.
But obviously the challenges that we were having to deal with were different at that time.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a teenager, the internet was like brand new. Us time pe to, you know, we had dial-up internet, which you guys are probably, I mean, never experienced, but I don't know, even know if you've heard about it. We used to like connect a telephone line to the computer. It used to be insanely slow. Social media didn't exist in the way it exists now at all. We used to have these like really archaic chatting platforms, and it was a big deal for us that we could like text communicate with people all over the world, and then that was the first time we actually were able to sort of engage and form like, you know, groups and communities across borders, and just doing that using text prompts was like a big deal for us. So you guys are now dealing with artificial intelligence and you know the whole climate change and the intersection of so many different things that it's a challenging and interesting time to be alive. But I'm not surprised that you guys are asking difficult questions, because your context has changed so much. In the last like even 5 years, the world has changed so much that it's not surprising that you guys are asking challenging and difficult questions, right? And we need to try to think about it and come up with some sensible and logical answers for you guys, rather than just going back to like, you know, cliches from the 20th century essentially.
Well, that's
yeah, that's
great.
nice that someone finally understands the
Yeah.
concept of our thought process, that
Yeah.
we are not the rebels here, we are just simply very critically thinking towards what is happening around us, socially aware, you can say.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of the things that people I've been reading about recently a lot is that, you know, all these studies are coming out saying that, you know, Gen Zers are the first generation that's less intelligent than their parents. You guys might have read
we
this.
have been to that.
Right?
That's a lie.
We have been to that.
No, so my, you know, my argument is that it's, you know, the way we test intelligence and competence, right, has to change with time also, right? So
That's true.
The way IQ tests were designed, or assessment tests, standardized assessment tests were designed, they were designed for a different time, right? And, you know, maybe they were designed for a time when rote memorization was more important. You know, one of the skills that's going to be really important in the future going forward for everyone is how effectively they can work with AI to solve
Yes.
problems and ideate and come up with new solutions. Now, you know, testing which predominantly, you know, asks you to, you know, recall information and just present that, maybe that type of measure of competence is not so relevant anymore, because the data is easily accessible, right? So I think we need to start assessing students more on, you know, how they can work with modern technology, given that all this information is already available to them, to ideate and come up with new ideas. So what tests don't do so well is test how well you can come up with a completely novel idea. They test very well what you already know from the body of knowledge that exists. But maybe that's not so useful anymore. That's my argument. So saying that Gen Zers are less intelligent than their parents, or the first generation is less intelligent. Maybe they're just the first generation where the world has changed so much so quickly that their entire paradigm is unfamiliar to previous generations. And so we need to think about that also. So that's something that I often wonder to myself. You know.
Seems like, sir, we need an article written from you to counter
Yeah.
that argument.
Well, these are just my thoughts. In order to write an article, which might not be a terrible idea, I'd actually have to do some research
Yeah.
and actually figure out if you guys are actually, because see, the problem is, it's not a total cop-out, right? Because if you guys aren't using technology to ideate and come up with new ideas, then there is a problem.
Yes.
Right? Because what you shouldn't do is outsource your entire thought process to AI. In fact, there's a lot of research now coming out, which I find to be a bit of a relief, which is suggesting that AI isn't this like super intelligence that we thought it was. It's basically, in a way, it's like a highly sophisticated search engine, which is taking existing human knowledge and repackaging it in a way that makes a lot of sense for people. So, you know, it's doing all the searches for you and synthesizing it in a useful piece of, you know, information that you can process. But what it's not doing, by the way, at all right now, is creating new knowledge. Now, whether or not it does that in the future, I won't say, because technology is progressing at breakneck speed, but for now, it's not creating new knowledge. So, for you guys to argue that you're smarter than previous generations, you need to create new knowledge, okay, using the AI, but the new knowledge needs to be created, right? And I think that's what we need to work on as educators also with students, is to help them create new knowledge using the amazing tools which are available. If you're not doing that, then you guys have a problem.
I think
Right?
that's very well said, and that makes a lot of sense now that we need to work on what has to be given right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so
we need to draft new theories right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, if everything that's when I was growing up, knowing the stuff that already existed and being able to make sense of that was a pretty good skill. And you could get pretty far with that in life. Now, synthesizing what's already out there and making sense of it is something that AI can do. So if you can't do something that, but what AI can't do is come up with new novel ideas.
Yes.
So the problem, in a way, it's a challenge for you guys, because coming up with new novel ideas is hard. It's much harder than just memorizing stuff and writing it down on a paper. So that's your challenge, that you have to actually raise the bar and be far more creative than we had to be, because creativity is the only thing that has any value now.
Yes,
Right?
that's
very
true.
well said, very well
So-
said. So, sir, coming to your student life,
Yeah.
we want to ask that
Were you sort of a more topper or a practical learner?
Yeah, no, honestly, I wasn't a topper. I was sort of like middle in my class in terms of academics. And yeah, I would say I was more of a practical learner.
That's
where, you know, I was sort of more focused on the things that interested me. And I wasn't, you know, I mean, I didn't have bad grades. I had like, you know, average grades, but I was not a topper. Later on, actually, I think as I matured and got older, I became much more academically inclined. And I later in life did an MBA program where I did actually quite well. Over there, I was sort of a front bencher and pretty engaged. But I think that's a transition I made. I became more interested in learning as I got older, I'll be honest. And I think, you know, the more time I've spent in education, the more and more interested I've gotten in educating myself more and more. And so, you know, I'm hoping in the future to do maybe more executive training courses, do more postgraduate courses and other things that interest me. So I think I've made a transition to being more academic now later in life.
but learning should never
I think
stop.
as a student, you
No.
were like a piece of paper can't decide my future.
Yeah, no,
Now,
absolutely. I was very interested. Actually, I knew a lot of stuff at the time. You know, we didn't have like as much information available online as is easily available now. But I used to watch like a lot of documentaries. I used to watch a lot of like Discovery Channel and National Geographic. So I remember I knew a lot more about like, like broadly speaking about like physics and aerodynamics and zoology and random things.
Fair.
I had a lot of random knowledge that necessarily didn't, apply to my life or my career aspirations, but I just had the knowledge because I found it interesting. And when I engaged with it, I would, absorb it and really enjoy it. And, I think knowledge acquisition, apart from obviously serving some career or financial goals, is really important just to, serve your personal goals. Unless you are someone who's interested in something and is curious about something, eventually you're going to start finding yourself boring, to be honest. Let alone the fact that the rest of the world will find you uninteresting. You yourself will start finding yourself boring. So I think knowledge is kind of a means unto itself. You don't necessarily acquire knowledge to reach a certain end always. Sometimes you do, but not always. I would say more often than not, the pursuit of knowledge should be something you do for your own self-actualization, so that your perspective and horizons broaden and you understand what's going on in the world around you. And when you have that broader understanding, only then can you actually even contribute to the world. So sometimes, knowledge you'll acquire which you may never even think will actually apply in a real life scenario ends up being relevant, if for no other reason, because it allows you to understand how the world works, which is, I think, the ultimate objective of all knowledge.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, sir, coming to this,
Moving on, I would like to know, did you ever face any academic failures? And if yes, what did they teach you?
Yeah, academic failures, yes, as in, I don't think I really failed very many classes. Like I said, I wasn't an exceptional student, but I wasn't like an exceptionally bad student either. But I have faced failure, which I think is probably more pertinent to talk about. Failure I've definitely faced on some occasions, more earlier in my life. I wouldn't say I don't face failure now. I genuinely believe if you succeed like 60% of the time, you're doing pretty well. But earlier in life, I think more so when I was younger, I think one of the things that it taught me again is to persevere and not give up. I think when I was younger, I didn't deal with failure as well. I used to take it very personally, very emotionally. It used to affect, my happiness. Right, but now as I've grown older, I've learned that it's an incredible teaching tool. You learn more from your failures than you ever will from your successes. You obviously don't want to keep making the same mistakes. I think if you keep making the same mistakes, that's a problem, because it means you're not actually learning. But if you fail for completely different reasons, on different occasions, that's not actually a bad thing, because it'll teach you what not to do. It could be, a hiring decision, what kind of people you should hire for different roles. It can be a financial decision. It can be a personal decision. But your failures will teach you more than anything. You should just try not to make them the same failure over and over. And keeping in mind that, failure is the greatest teacher, you should not let it get you down. It should not ever, if you're passionate about something and you believe that you can make something happen, even if you face failure, keep at it, keep working at it, and eventually you'll succeed. I mean, yes, know when to walk away. Sometimes genuinely an idea you eventually realize doesn't make sense. Don't let that affect your sense of self, how you think about yourself as a person. I think the most important quality to groom in yourself is consistency and relentlessness. So as long as you yourself know that you are someone who will never give up, someone who will keep persevering and trying, then you should not let your occasional failures make you feel bad about yourself or deviate you from your overall objective in life. So what failures taught me more than anything is the fact that I should, rather than emotionally internalizing it, analyze it logically and learn from it and never give up.
So you'd say that the failure was basically your ambition to move forward.
I mean, I think there are times when I did let failure probably hit me harder than I should have. And I've learned never to let that happen again.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's good.
But you know, we go through that. It's life. You know, we're all human, and there are times when life beats you down, and those are the times when you need to be tough, actually.
Basically, I think that makes
Yeah.
a strong person.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. You know.
sir, coming to your student life, I want to ask, like, if there was a moment that you could relive in your student life, what would it be? That
Yeah.
one specific moment that you feel like, no, I want to go and relive it back then.
Yeah, so it would have to be in my high school actually. I think my final 2 years of school, of high school, were probably, I can't think of an exact moment, but I would say the last 2 years of school were really special for me. I formed some really, really deep friendships. We had some fun. We got up to some, not always, some slightly antisocial behavior at times, which I guess, when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, शरारतें तो थोड़ी सी होती हैं, but
And that's acceptable.
hopefully nothing that gets you into too much trouble. But ek had tak to, I suppose one does, but there are experiences that bonded me with certain people for life. So I have a lot of old friends who, even if we don't meet for many years, the connection is really strong and we gel immediately. So I really enjoyed my final 2 years of school, and they stay with me forever. And I think if I could go in a time capsule, I would just live those 2 years over again.
That's wonderful. We understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming to this, we all fear, and like we all have some fears in life, and we look forward to maintaining those things.
Yeah.
This means that we are coming to the real world, because as university students, getting into the practical life is something that we are so scared of at the point.
Ji.
So I want to ask that what was your lowest professional moment in those early years of your success?
Yeah. So, and I'll be honest, so the thing I regret the most specifically is I was working on a wind energy project. ये अब लग भी गई हैं काफ़ी. I did a lot of work on it. At that time, there were really, it was a new industry in Pakistan, and these were these large grid-level wind turbines. So after spending quite a few years, I, was struggling to put the project together. There were financing issues, procurement issues. It was they're complex projects to put together, negotiating tariffs with the government, different things coming together. I think I, at some stage, sold the project to another entity to whom is not important. And they ended up then going through, and at that time I had this option of staying in as an investor and having a managing role in the company, or backing out. And I had faced, over a few years, quite a few setbacks in that project. And it was a split-second decision. We were in a boardroom. I had to decide instantly. It was a very important decision. And I decided to, cut my losses and exit fully, right? And take the financial payout. Otherwise, it would have been converted into equity. And actually, I would have gotten more equity than the payout. And I shouldn't have done that. Number one, it was a project I had worked on. The project was set up. It was highly successful. Had I stayed in it, I would have done exceptionally well. It would have been a credit to me, but I didn't. I still regret it. And I think it's one of the reasons I still, I'm in the renewable energy sector. In fact, the company I have now, I chose the same name as that. So that company was called Beacon Energy. So I adopted the same name when launching this company, just to kind of scratch that itch a little bit. But yeah, I think, again, wahi tha, I was demoralized at the time, and I should have thought it through logically. I should have stayed in. It would have been a great deal. And after doing all this work, we managed to structure this amazing deal where I had both options, and I shouldn't have stepped away. But I think that moment has taught me more than anything. Now I pretty much don't back off, from whatever I'm doing. Again, if you eventually realize that an idea is just not working out, you do need to know when to back off also, because not every project can always be successful. But I think my threshold now is way higher. It would take a fairly catastrophic failure now for me to make that decision. And I've realized that so many businesses in life, they're like long tail sort of things. What happens sometimes, in fact, it happens a lot, is that when you're doing a project, when we do feasibilities, if any of you are business students, we'll teach you, most feasibilities look really neat. You have an investment, then you have revenue that gradually goes up and then crosses expenses, and then you have a 5 or 6 year break even, and there's regular, that's how feasibilities are done. In real life, it looks very different sometimes. Sometimes it's like losing money, and then suddenly the thing just flies, right? Because you iterate or you find some variation of the idea which clicks. Or maybe you were early to the market and the market catches up and it suddenly flies. So in real life, what happens a lot is with a project, a lot of failure and then sudden substantial success, which you can't model actually in a feasibility. It would be impossible. So, you have to also learn that, things will hardly ever work out the way you planned. You have to keep iterating and adapting, and oftentimes, eventually, they work out, and when they work out big time, and these tech companies have turned that into a financial model now, right? Where they, with these venture capitals,
Yeah.
so it's now become a business model where you burn cash
That's
for
true.
sometimes a decade, like Amazon, throughout my entire late teenage and 20s, all Amazon did was lose money. And it was one of the first companies that was set up on this model. They lost money for a decade or more. And now Jeff Bezos is one of the richest men in the world. In fact, after getting a divorce, his wife is the richest woman in the world. So, when success comes, sometimes it's big, but sometimes it comes after a lot of failure, and a lot of great successes have these really weird success trajectories where it's loss, 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 and then sudden win. And that's something you need to have the aptitude to understand if you're in that sort of a vertical where there is some light at the end of the tunnel, or whether you've just made a bad choice and maybe you do need to step away. That's a difficult decision to be able to make. But I think that one failure certainly, taught me to stick around for longer before calling it a day. Definitely.
Yeah, so it's more like that you need to just stick around, stay strong, and
Yeah.
just work smart.
Work smart, and try to address the issues that are keeping you from progressing or making your idea a success. Keep iterating, trying different variations. Yeah.
With wins, you said that it took you years, and after that, when Beacon Energies, basically the first one with the Win Energy that you came up with, that you gave up, you sold it 100%. That was that your first step after your graduation? What was your first step once you graduated?
Yeah, I know. I started an internet service provider. That also didn't do well, by the way. So I had two early sort of. I mean, the wind energy thing was, a failure in the sense I didn't lose any money, but I didn't make any money either. So it was I guess a no-cost learning experience in a way, but still I don't really classify it as a success. The ISP didn't work out, and that was I learned another very important lesson from that: never get into a price competition with anyone. You'll eventually destroy yourself. The reason that didn't work out is because I was young, and very young. In fact, I was 21 when I started that, and at that time, what happened is, there was like everyone got on the bandwagon. It was the early years of the internet, dial-up internet, and these internet service providers started popping up, all over the place. Now, there's only a few service providers, mainly the telco companies, right? It's
Yes.
now,
Yeah.
it's merged, and the telecom companies give you, data access, and if you're at home on Wi-Fi, maybe you use Nayatel, and that's pretty much it, right? There's not a lot of variety. Back in the days of dial-up internet, the barrier to entry wasn't that high, and everyone was setting up like an internet service provider. There were like dozens and dozens and dozens of them. They were like popping up every day. And what happened is the market got very price competitive, and people started undercutting each other. And I think uski wajah se the approach was wrong. And this is something now we're very particular about. We in the solar energy project, we let projects go if it doesn't make financial sense. Even on the education side, if people are giving ridiculous discounts, we don't do it because we want to focus on things like the foundry, and we want to invest money in improving the program and making better campuses and investing in student facilities. Inshallah, you'll see us in the next year or so, we'll be investing in this campus, and every year we build
Inshallah.
more and more stuff. So I would rather invest and focus on quality than try to get into a price competition, which is a short-term gain, but it's always a long-term loss. So that's, again, that's been a great learning experience for me. That one did cost a little bit of money, but that's what happens sometimes.
But quality comes with a price.
Yeah. So now our focus is always on delivering our value proposition, whether it's to students, whether it's to our consumers on the solar side, and not cutting corners. Don't give discounts and then cut corners. It's just not going to serve you in the long run. And I think that's been a much better route to success, actually. Focusing on building the brand, having positive word of mouth, and not focusing just on, pricing obviously is important in any business venture, but never unhealthy price competition. That's something, you know, I avoid at all costs. If someone else wants to get into it and destroy themselves in the process, I'm happy to wait it out and be the last man standing.
Yeah.
You know.
No, that's good. So, sir, coming to your personal side,
Yeah.
I want to ask, who is Mr.
Yeah.
Nassir Kasuri outside office?
Yeah, I mean, quite few things actually, because you know, you know, I try. So I work like maybe 9 or 10 hours a day. You know, that's kind of like my. I mean, which you like, you know, is not so much considering like when you're running a few different businesses. But you know, I switch off after that. So I try to sort of you know, exercise regularly as well. So I'm you know, sort of go to the gym 4 times a week. I play tennis also. So
Oh.
tennis is kind of like a combination of exercise and hobby.
Yeah.
So I generally go to the gym for about 45 minutes and I play an hour of tennis. So about 2 hours a day are exercise slash hobby, you know, slash exercise.
So you're sort
So
of
the-
athletic person.
Sorry?
You're sort of an athletic person.
Yeah, now by the way, another little secret about me is that for most of my life I was really fat, like humongous, right?
I cannot believe that, certainly.
No,
Indeed,
it's-
I
it's, like,
cannot.
huge and completely like unfit. I got into this fitness thing about 13, 14 years ago, but I've been very consistent. Like for 14 years, I think my weight has not varied more than 4 kg. You know, and usually I keep it within 1 kilogram.
They say
So
consistency
I'm
is the
pretty
key.
consistent. Like, you know, वही consistency की बात हो जाती है. So I think that it's important to exercise. It's also important to have like a hobby. So in my case, like tennis is kind of a hobby, but it's exercise at the same time. So combined with the gym, it gives me a good combination of cardio and strength training. Definitely want to spend some time with the kids. They're growing up now. You know, my eldest is 16, you know, and it's like this age where they find you really annoying, but they want to spend time with you also. So it's difficult to be a parent at that age as well. But, you know, give some time to the parents and, you know, obviously with the family, my wife. You know, we oftentimes like watch a movie in the evening to wind down. I love watching like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of Netflix in the evening before going to sleep. I mean, I sleep like maybe 6 hours a day, sometimes less. I'm like a 5-6 hour a day sleeping person. So I will like, even if I get done with my emails at like 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night, I'll go and I'll turn on Netflix and I'll watch something
That's
because I
relaxing.
need it to de-stress. If I just work non-stop and then go to sleep immediately, I feel stressed out. So yeah,
So Netflix is the relaxing point here, we see.
yeah, or you know, not just like watch a movie, watch Netflix, watch something. I do like movies and you know, TV shows and things like that. I'm a big fan of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Right? I don't watch anything realistic basically because I'm like you know, I'm dealing with realistic things the entire day, and so my thing is when I switch off, I generally like science fiction. Science fiction is interesting because it obviously is like gives you a glimpse of how human society might adapt to changing you know, technological transitions. But I watch a lot of this sort of stuff in the evening, which my wife finds really annoying sometimes because, you know, women are a lot of times into like, you know, love stories and dramas. And I'm like, yeah, there's already a lot of drama in my life, you know, it's fine, you know.
That's fair and
Yeah.
very much understandable, relatable it is.
Yeah.
So I think, sir, we should move to the rapid fire.
Sure.
And Hadi and Hajra, we will be going with the first batch of the rapid fire
Okay.
because
That's
obviously your time
sure.
is precious and we are just university students here.
Sure, no.
So going to that, sir, rapid fire is something you just have to choose one. I'm pretty sure.
Either
Gen
side.
Z-
First response.
Yeah,
Yes.
first
You're
response.
not thinking too much.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So,
Yeah.
introvert or extrovert?
Interesting question. Extroverted introvert, which is a weird answer, but
You
it's
mean
true.
somewhere in between?
In my heart, I'm actually an introvert, but I like behaving in an extroverted manner, whether or not it makes any
I
sense.
think that's the most relatable thing I
Yeah.
could
In our
see till
generation.
But I
now.
feel like an introvert.
Yeah.
I don't always find it easy to engage, but I really enjoy it, and I've become much better at it, and actually quite good at it. I used to be a complete introvert, but I started transitioning towards being an extrovert, but I think my nature and my personality is still that of an introvert.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
That gives you the idea
I've
of
had to
something in
learn to be
between.
an extrovert.
Yeah. Okay.
So, are you a risk taker or a calculated strategist?
Calculated strategist.
Nice.
A strict boss or a friendly boss?
I think friendly.
That's
I can
what
be
we were
strict at
expecting.
times though. Yeah.
Okay. So, luxurious, fine dining, or cafe, or you can say Quetta cafe.
Honestly, luxurious fine dining.
Fair.
I love it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So, calm under pressure or energized by pressure?
Somewhere in between, to be honest.
Trust your instincts or trust your team?
Team.
Team.
Listener or speaker?
Oh God. Most people would probably say, okay, let me again answer similarly. Speaker who's worked very hard to become a better listener.
That's fair.
That's fair enough.
So, tea or coffee?
T.
Tea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Innovation or tradition?
Innovation.
That's good.
Confidence or competence?
Competence.
Fair. So, if you have to describe your journey in one emoji, what would it be?
Up and down.
I see, that's a roller coaster we are talking about.
And I think one word your team would use to describe you.
Or your friends.
Or
I
your
think,
friends,
I mean, I don't want, let's stick with friendly. I think
Yeah.
most of them think I'm friendly and, yeah.
That's
And
great.
nice.
Oh, that's true.
One thing I hear a lot is genuine person.
That's,
But it's a weird question because you don't want like compliment yourself necessarily. But I try to be, a good friend, a good father, and and nice to people. My default behavior is to be nice.
That's really nice if they
Yeah.
can see that through you.
Yeah.
So, lastly, if leadership had a color, what do you think it would be?
Red.
Seems like we're getting to know his favorite color. So, sir, coming to this, thank you very much for sharing your time with us, for
Yeah.
sharing your experiences. We
Yeah.
are genuinely so honored.
Exactly.
We felt so good. We could relate so much
Oh,
at
thank
this
you.
point.
Yeah,
So-
we're all just human beings at different
Yeah.
stages of our life journey, and there's a lot of stuff I can learn from you guys because I haven't grown up in the context that you have.
Indeed.
So we should have more of a chat about that sometime as well. What are the challenges you guys are facing?
Oh, well,
And how
there's a
can-
long list.
Yeah, and what can we do over here to adapt what we're doing here to better address those challenges? I'd like to have a chat about that sometime with you guys also.
We definitely will, and we will name that chat as Fab4, Coffee with Fab4. We can
Yeah.
keep it that
Sounds
way.
good.
Yeah.
You can do it after Ramzan, so we can have coffee then.
Definitely. Definitely. So,
Or
sir,
tea, because mine was tea.
yes.
Rapid fire. I'm a tea
Oh,
person.
yes.
But I don't mind a nice, cappuccino.
Oh,
Or if I'm sleepy, a shot of double espresso.
Ooh.
I think that's something new to
Yeah.
us here. So we'll definitely
You
keep.
never had a double espresso if you're ever
No,
sleepy?
no.
Huh.
No, I never had the thought of seeing you in that way. But I feel like we want you to try matcha sometimes if you have.
My daughter loves matcha.
I love
She's
matcha.
obsessed with it, like obsessed with it. I've
Gen
never,
Z's new favorite drink.
yeah, I've never had it actually. She first used to be, so her progression was she was first obsessed with, what was it, bubble tea.
Okay,
Oh.
we know
Then
it.
it was acai bowls.
Okay.
And now it's matcha.
Seems like you need to try that one as well.
It's a lot of stuff I need to try.
Definitely. Sir, lastly, we really want to thank you, and we want to know that if there is a message you could give to the generation, to the younger generation, to the
To
students.
our generation, to be
Yeah.
precise.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, guys, don't freak out and be brave. I know there's a lot of stuff going.
Much needed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If I was in your shoes, I would. I mean, in my shoes, I'm like worried, right? And I'm like, what am I like going to do in the future if everything gets automated, right? I mean, and I can imagine as a young person, it's like even more worrying. But I would say that, you know, a lot of what we're discovering, you know, a lot of times when a new technology comes out, people do think that, you know, it's going to make humans useless. This has happened before also. I think what we're realizing increasingly now, and a lot of research is bearing it out, is that it is just a tool. It's a really amazing tool. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an incredible tool, but nonetheless a tool. There's still a tremendous need for human beings, like I was saying, to ideate, come up with new ideas, create new knowledge. So there will definitely be an important place for all of you guys in the world. You're the ones who have to take it forward. The way in which you do that will be different. There'll be more pressure for you guys to be creative, which I think may actually make you smarter than previous generations. So I think focus on being creative and ideating, as the sign says over there. Those are the skills that are going to take you forward. Use AI as a tool to help you stress test your ideas and build new ideas, but the ideas have to be yours. I would also say don't outsource outsource the grunt work to AI. Don't outsource your creative thinking to AI. Number one, it's not capable of creative thinking. And if the AI is doing the thinking, then you're not adding any value, and then you will become obsolete. If you use it for everything and what you output is just what AI has done, then unfortunately you will become obsolete. But if you're someone that's just using it as a tool, you may actually be able to do far more than we were able to do, because the kind of entrepreneurship that's possible now with the kind of tools you have was unimaginable in the past. So if you take it that way, I think the future is incredibly bright for you guys. So don't panic, keep the faith, be hopeful, and inshallah work towards being creative, and the world will be your oyster, I think.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
Ji.
It
Thank you, pleasure to be
it
here.
was
Thank you for
lovely to
joining
meet
us.
you. It
Okay,
was
guys.
a very nice chit chat.